there should be always the percentage of anyone or any business that you are looking sideways, but how much you're looking sideways and how quick you move sideways should be, the textbook would say, based on your capacity and how you can cope with that. Now, I doubt I'll ever be the person that'll fully stick to those rules, but being conscious of it, I think, is the key thing.
Before we get started, the team here at the Coast and Commerce podcast want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where this podcast is created, the Kabi and Jinnabara people. We honour their rich culture of storytelling as we share the inspiring stories of business leaders across the Sunshine Coast. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Let's get on with the show. G'day and welcome back to the Coast and Commerce podcast. This is the show where we interview inspiring business leaders from across the Sunshine Coast to hopefully inspire you in whatever you do in your business on the coast here. So one of those businesses that we've got here today is Dave Biggar, who's a CTO from Zone Manufacturing. Now, you may have heard of Zone RV, is probably one of the main companies that you guys have under that Zone Manufacturing belt. But Dave, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to kind of dive into the Zone story.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, mate.
Can you tell us a little bit? Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about your story before we get into it? So, prior to Zone, how long you been on the coast? Like, what were you doing? What led you into the manufacturing industry?
Well, look, I grew up on the sunny coast, grew up around Noosa. I think my storyline starts there. At a young age, my dad took me down to Noosa Yacht Club and got me into sailing. So I spent my sort of whole teenage years racing yachts and sort of in and around that, won national titles and competed at a world level. And
Cool.
I think within that, I started to understand, high performance yachts, which are made out of composites. And it was a bit of a natural progression for me when I finished school. I went off and did some other stuff, but I really wanted to get into business pretty early. And my father and my family have been pretty entrepreneurial. I started my first business when I was about 22 called Stallion Marine and went into boat building.
Right.
I asked my grandfather for a loan or some help. I was working away and I said, mate, I think if I build a 40-foot catamaran and rustled together a bit of a team and we built it and finished it, I could probably sell it and make a profit. And he thought the storyline was all right, so he helped me along and supported me with a bank loan, and that's where I started Stallion Marine. And look, I got into boat building. I guess I employed some guys and a shed out the back of Yandina, and we started building boats, but sort of higher performance boats, because that's what I was into. Lighter, stronger, a lot of emphasis on how we build things light and strong. And for the next 10 years, with a good team of guys and mates, we built big one-off custom boats all the way up to 60, 70-foot boats, worth in the millions.
Yeah.
But probably was never that, leaping ahead in making profits and running good business. So I think learnt lots of hard lessons of what not to do and I guess what to do. But that sort of evolved into more industrial fiberglass businesses, which then got me into RVs and has got to where it is today. I guess the last 10 years of working on the coast, and I have set up companies down in Victoria as well, manufacturing, but I've chosen to come back up here and spend the majority of my time here. The last 10 years has sort of been sinking my teeth into sort of growing businesses and figuring a few things out and getting us to where we are today.
So Stallion Marine, is that still around?
It actually is. It's a business that I had sitting there with a bunch of losses. And I sort of run my own personal R&D business for the moment. I've got sort of guys that just work within my own team on my own projects, and that business, ABN, is still alive. And,
okay.
And we it chugs along, but you wouldn't ever be able to find it or know anything about it. It's just a trading name now.
Okay, so you kind of made that transition, still in the world of composites, but into RV, into caravans.
Yeah.
And what was that point where you realised that maybe moving from boats into like caravans and RVs is the way to go?
Oh, I think really it's just the light bulb moment of going, geez, are we going to try and, build a one-off thing and just keep trying to grunt through that and you're only as good as the last product you made, and sort of looking a bit sideways and going, what could we do where we could be a bit more production, get a bit more rhythm going, get more unskilled people in, and try and scale a business up that way. And I guess that's where we sort of were looking around, and by being in an industrial fiberglassing business, we're servicing a lot of different industries there and looking around and seeing what's going on. And obviously, I set up a business called CL Composites. It was a joint venture between a business we had here and another company in Sydney. And we said, let's go down to Melbourne and set up a fiberglass sandwich panel business to service all of the RV manufacturers, which 90% of the RVs in Australia are manufactured down in Melbourne, plus a lot of the truck bodies. So we said, let's go down there and set up a business. We got a contract with one of the bigger truck body builders and tried to penetrate the RV business, or RV industry down there, which is, up until now has been made up of timber wall framed, tin cladded vans, which is like super old technology.
Yeah.
There's not a lot smart about it. They have a lot of issues. We thought, let's go put a plant, a composite laminating plant in the middle of this place called Campbellfield. And there's 140 caravan manufacturers there. It's a really strange market in Australia with how many caravan manufacturers there are.
Just in Campbellfield.
Just in Campbellfield.
Okay.
And we injected straight in, and I thought, we're going to set up the mint here. We're just going to get into this market and absolutely cream it. It was far from that. It was a bunch of false starts. And yes, we did penetrate it, and yes, we got into it, but that's where I learned a lot about the RV market, what it was, how they were building, how they absolutely struggle, like most industries, with change and adopting new methodologies. And while I was down there running that business, I was flying up and down every week, spending 2 or 3 days in Melbourne, 2 or 3 days back up here in Queensland. And I'd sort of had enough of going to Melbourne, and I'm like, we got an opportunity to sell that business. Another company down there that sort of wanted us, and we sold it. But I came back up to Queensland, and I was like, we're going to start building caravans. And, with a boat building background and a business within making, the bodies of caravans, the recipe was sort of there.
Yeah. And obviously, right from the start, you were using composites to build those caravans, right? So using that skill that you honed your skill set in boat building and making them lighter, faster, stronger, right? And then just bringing that into, I guess, the caravan industry, which at that stage, was that relatively new?
I wouldn't say fully new. Composites and fiberglass have been in the RV industry since, even back in the 70s. But obviously the way in which I had learned how to build a lightweight, high-performance yacht with more modern technologies was not how a lot of it was in the RV industries, and definitely not anywhere near what some of our product and how it's being produced today. But 10 years ago, yes, I think our biggest thing was we came into the industry and I associated timber with rot in caravans, and I think a lot of the market did and does. And I just said, well, let's remove timber out of the whole caravan, not even the interior, no plywood in cabinets, anything like that. Our van started on day one as 100% composite, a mix of different composite materials that you could put the thing on the bottom of a river for a year and bring it back up, and none of the materials would be affected. And that was, I think, one of our main competitive edges coming into the market. People understood that message.
Yeah. So as you launched, that was Zone RV at that stage, right from the start. That's what it was called.
Yep.
As you launched that, what were some of the challenges of getting that to market? Like, it's pretty competitive, I imagine, as far as like other caravan manufacturers.
Yeah. Look, I think competitive, but a big market. So we were able to, bringing change into a market. Well, not necessarily drastic change, but bringing some change and being, new people. You've got to get the early adopters and the people that are, open to looking sideways. But I think the challenges really are in manufacturing is designing the product is easy, figuring out production, making production happen is really hard. Getting into that and trying to get a shift of going, well, we're boat builders and we do things one at a time, and trying to set up lines and teams, different divisions, and trying to go through that whole process was challenging. Building teams is challenging. Building new groups of people and asking everyone to work friendly is challenging. Kicking off businesses where, it's still relatively small in the RV industry, but, you sort of go, oh, okay, all of a sudden we're doing one of these a week, but one of them's $150,000. All of a sudden you're doing two. Well, geez, you got $300,000 coming in the door a week. So, and you're never, killing it from day one. So you're straight into cash flow problems. You're straight into every conceivable problem when you're scaling or trying to grow a business quickly. Everything's coming at you from every angle, really. But no, it was, to be honest, a very good learning curve. And I think probably in those early days of Zone RV, I'd already made this shift into, you just got to start finding good people to get on your team. Nobody does anything by themselves.
Yep.
But that click and the understanding that, we got to pay people. You got to pay people to do all of this work, and we got to do our best at trying to find good people to do it. So I think that was one of the big shifts in the early days, but that was also the help that, grunted us through those early days too.
Yeah. So you got through those early days, obviously some success, right? So can you paint a picture of where Zone RV is today? And then we'll talk more about the bigger picture as well.
Yep. So Zone RV is now owned. There's been a bit of shift in it even in the last 12 months where we've put it under a group named Zone Manufacturing. So we've got multiple business units running under Zone Manufacturing, and Zone RV is one of those. It's definitely the biggest out of that group of businesses. There'd be about 250 to 300 people working in that business.
And how many caravans are you pushing through each week or month or whatever?
So they're sort of doing 10 to 12 a week, maybe 600 this year. The price on them has gone up. So they're sort of probably closer to an average price up around 200 now. We've got 3 or 4 different facilities.
And mostly in Coolum, yeah?
All in Coolum.
All in Coolum.
Yep. So we've been lucky enough to sort of keep grabbing land and building buildings and acquiring more land and getting a bit of stock in front of us so that we can keep growing. It's definitely it's a fairly vertical business. We've got metal fabrication, we're in composites, we've got full cabinet divisions, and obviously assembly lines. So if you looked in the caravan industry, we would be up there as one of the most vertical, across disciplines. A lot of contracting, like any businesses, you can contract a bunch of your stuff out, but we have chosen to, try and master the art of a few different things, not just assembly, of which, again, is our competitive edge. We control our destiny, and we're forever. Half the reason we're doing a lot of the things ourselves because the way in which we've chosen to make our bodies, our cabinets, I wouldn't say our chassis so much, but we couldn't find those other companies in Australia to support us either as a technology or with a capacity that could feed us.
Yeah, very cool. So, as you think about right from the start of even Stallion Marine, it's kind of, figuring out your strength, right, which was in, like you said, composites and understanding the materials and how to manufacture with that. And then you kind of looked sideways as you described it, and you moved into RV and caravans. And then you've continued to look sideways, right? So you talked about Zone Manufacturing as being this, relatively new parent company, I guess. So tell us about what's under that umbrella of Zone Manufacturing, because it's still composites, right?
Yeah, so probably the next big division sitting beside Zone RV is One Composites, and One Composites is, I guess, an enabler of that key. I call it the global structure. If it's a caravan, that's the body. If it's a boat, it's the holes and all of the structure that holds it together. So for us to dream up businesses, again, where we get our competitive edge from being lighter and stronger, that's one of those key areas. It was our background, but to be honest, if I could have found another big contractor in fiberglass and composites in Australia that had the ability to use the methods, which is, vacuum bagging, vacuum infusion, light RTM, it probably doesn't mean a lot to you, but they're processes within composites that we use to make components. And that finding another business in Australia that could feed us with those sort of methodologies just isn't there. So really it left us no choice but to set it up, which wasn't I was always up and wanted probably a business unit like that. But that's there, and it in its own right now is in two different divisions. It's got a production division, which just makes parts. So basically put a fiberglass mold in there, and we have not just a methodology for the part, but we've designed a whole methodology for our production lines and how that production line works. And, we continue to be as automated with robots and digital infrastructure within those places to be, we mightn't be the best at it, but you got to get in and get going in these things. Otherwise you'll never be good at it. But look, that division has been there for probably 18 months, coming up to 2 years now, with rapid change and growth in just how many parts they're putting out and in revenue. So that's one division in their own unit, and the other division within one composites is how you make those molds, or how you make shapes to make molds, and that's where our big 3D printer is. We've got that big large format printer, and
I was gonna mention that. Is that like the only one in Australia? Is that what I've heard? Or
no, there are other ones in Australia, but ours is by far the biggest.
The biggest, yeah. Give us a sense of that scale, because that's some pretty cool technology, right? So, when you say big, how big is this 3D printer?
Yeah, so it's pretty big. It's 25 meters long, by 5 meters wide, by 2 meters high.
Can you print a whole caravan?
You could print a whole caravan. It would not be 3D printing a caravan would not be the lightest approach. So,
right.
So the 3D printer the large format 3D printer doesn't actually make us components that would be the end use components.
Right.
What it does is it'll 3D print the mold, which, most of the time in composites, we need to lay up composites over something to form a shape. So it helps us form that shape, and forming that shape quickly and efficiently is typically not something that happens in the composite industry. Making those forms and shapes in the past have, been hand-made things, where
it's like the prototype kind of, in a way, and then build the mold around.
That's it. So we're doing all of our work in CAD and turning a machine on at night and coming back in the next morning, and this thing that could have taken months traditionally, we're doing in a night. And that's just accelerating how quick we can introduce things into our composite plant to then feed an assembly line that might be a product. So it's a really key bit of infrastructure and that other facility, because it just makes shapes, and anybody outside of our business that comes to us and says, hey guys, we've got a problem. We need to get a high performance composite product and we need it really quickly. And we say, well, we're the guys for the job. What do you got? Show us your CAD. Let's get into this. So there's a lot of exciting projects funneling into that place. That's a place where I probably spend most of my time.
Yeah. Often one of the differentiators in business is one of three things. It's, higher quality, faster, or, better performance, that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
And sounds like you kind of figured out how to do all three of those things.
Yes and no. They're all challenges, but I think what we're getting good at is, and it's taken me a long time, but just understanding which part, those exact things you just said, where do we need to focus on this particular project? That may be very different to the next project, and a customer might walk in the door with something completely different to that. And understanding that, and then being able to tie that to methodology and process. I mean, design for manufacture is probably a technical term for it, using budgets, equipment, what's your capacity, how quick can we move on it all, and that dial moves on all of the on every different project. The understanding of how to pull that together quickly and end up at something that is as close to getting it right quickly is a challenge, and that's probably what I'd say our teams we focus on, and we're pretty passionate about that. But yeah, it can move. We can have someone come in the door and say, hey, we need something tomorrow. We don't need you to get it 80, 100%. And this type of language is coming out of, projects all the way through to defence, by the way. Defence is saying, hey, we've got a problem. Can you help us? Don't aim for 100%. Aim for 80%, get there quickly,
Do it quick.
and we'll iterate again before you even got to 100 on the second one. And that's good, to be honest. That's actually my favourite spot, is spending too long to get to 100%. I get sick of a project and I'm over it. Getting to things at 80% and keeping a customer happy and being able to get a second one, another iteration out that may be way closer to 100%. It's a lot funner way to work.
Yeah, awesome. So when you think about, really what you're talking about there is innovation, right? And looking to do things better within an organization. So
Yep.
what role do you think innovating has played in the success so far of Zone Manufacturing?
Look, I'd have to look at the exact definition for innovation again, but I do remember reading it once where, innovation's something along the lines of, looking around. It's not necessarily dreaming something up that's brand new and no one has ever seen, but it's looking around and using a mixed bunch of things that if you put them all together is probably innovating. I think, we've done that and we do that because getting stuff out there to market doesn't necessarily mean go and try a whole lot of brand new stuff, start a business based on that. And if you stop executing it, you're going to die. If you can get some proven methodology and in some areas that you might already be good at, but still bundling them all together, and if that equals innovate, then I guess that's what we're doing. I've never technically liked the word innovate.
Yeah.
But it is sort of what we're doing, and we're just sort of applying similar formulas across some different business sectors that are all achieving a similar result. So I guess you would call it innovating.
Absolutely, yeah.
But
you would. Look, I think what I really love about that answer is that there's something there that anyone in business can take away, whether they're in manufacturing or not. And it's the idea of it's to grow and improve your business and to do better in what you're doing. It's not necessarily about a brand new thing, throw everything out and just try and find some brand new thing or invent something new. Often it's about what are you doing well? What can you make slight tweaks to? What can you take from somewhere else and bring into your business and, make it all work better?
Yep.
I think that is innovating. I think it's about, being creative, about putting the pieces together in a way that makes a better whole, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, outside of just the manufacturing nuts and bolts, really a key part of our innovation and the bigger thing for us is how we innovate digital systems, which is, again, it's just another piece of the puzzle we're trying to drag into some methodologies, but how are we innovating through all of the digital flow? How are we innovating by bringing AI into our daily lives and making things better? But I guess in the same context, it's all innovating, it's making things better, and it's making sure you're looking outside your four walls. It's not copying to look sideways and see someone else doing something well. It might be a snippet of process, it might be a snippet of software, but bring it in and add it to your inventory, and that's innovating.
Yeah, I love it. So this is the Coast and Commerce podcast. So let's talk about the Sunshine Coast. You are a business that's proudly based here on the Sunshine Coast, and quite a significant employer as well, as far as scale of businesses on the Sunshine Coast. So tell us about why the Sunshine Coast for you. You could have been in Melbourne, right? You could be anywhere, I guess. Could be overseas. Why here?
I don't know. The Sunshine Coast is one of the best ranked as one of the best places in the world. So I guess I don't find myself unusual to wanting and loving being here. But yeah, I mean, I just love this area we live in. The geography, the headlands, the rivers, the beaches, the towns we've got scattered here. It's just an awesome place. Every time I go away anywhere, I come back and go, how good's this place we live?
Yeah.
I've somehow stumbled across that in, the Coolum industrial estate. I think I had my first shed in there maybe 15, 16 years ago when it was pretty empty, and it's loaded now. It doesn't surprise me. It's, an industrial estate that's 5 minutes from the beach, right next to Coolum. I live in the mountains, like just behind there, and I reckon it's one of the best places on the coast.
Yeah.
So look, to be able to run businesses here, of which some people say, if you're trying to scale up bigger manufacturing businesses, and you get into the thousands of people, is this going to be the place? Well, I don't know. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, most people will come back to we can't get employees here and all of that, but I don't know. I don't really use that as an excuse. I think we can get employees here, absolutely, and we can figure out all these little problems as we go along. But I'm super passionate about the Sunshine Coast and businesses here, and I guess in the last few years it's been good for me as well. I've probably got out and spent more time with other businesses. A bunch of my buddies run businesses here on the coast, and I just think it's a very healthy ecosystem as well.
Yeah. So what's the future for Zone Manufacturing? Like, based on what you just said, it's staying on the coast, right? But is that vision to scale to 1,000 employees, or what's the vision?
The vision grows every day that, we, myself or any of our team, come up with new ideas. So the vision is really that we want to keep growing businesses. We want to build our current businesses. We want to grow new businesses, and we want to master the art of building, ventures from startup to being a key player in a market very quickly and being known for it. I think, with my business hat on, it really is a unique opportunity that I think we're trying to build for ourselves. These vertical businesses, again, where I was saying we're getting our competitive edge from being lighter, stronger, smarter. Every time we look a little bit further sideways, we see opportunity in other industries. So to be able to build businesses in an area that I and a bunch of my buddies that hang out with me every day have this competitive edge and our passion for those types of methodologies, but can try and scale up multiple businesses at once. It's a pretty exciting opportunity for us, I must say. And from a business sense, that it's like putting multipliers on multipliers, because it really is just a continuing infinite growth. And the more we diversify, the stronger our group gets as different markets go up and down. So who knows, we could bugger it all up and not be here in 12 months, but I highly doubt it, because we have got a skillful team that we're building there. And, we really are diversifying across a couple of different industry sectors now that I would think, through highs and lows of different ones, we can flex and move. And that is just sort of, adding to the strength. And in a business where you might be talking evaluation or multipliers, to me, these things are all ticks that if I'm looking at a business, I'm looking for these types of things. So the fact that we are executing that, I think it's an exciting thing for our team.
Yeah. I mean, what would you say to other business people out there, or entrepreneurs who are currently kind of growing in a silo, or are growing in one industry, but they're nailing whatever it is that they're doing? I think there's definitely some learnings in what you're talking about there. But what would you say to those people about the value in looking sideways or diversification?
Look, I think it's understanding capacities, and it's also understanding the want for growth. Understanding well, there's rights and wrongs, but I think understanding your capacities and the team capacity is definitely something I'm becoming a lot more conscious of. I guess maybe for the last 10 years it's been fun to, be sprinting, but I don't think it's not necessarily, what's the word? It's not a long-term game you want to play forever, because I think, you can burn yourself out, can be dangerous and not great for overall team. So I think, look, spreading sideways and looking sideways is about just continually checking capacity and going, are we good for it? Should I look sideways? There should be always the percentage of anyone or any business that you are looking sideways, but how much you're looking sideways and how quick you move sideways should be, the textbook would say, based on your capacity and how you can cope with that. Now, I doubt I'll ever be the person that'll fully stick to those rules, but being conscious of it, I think, is the key thing. And that would be my advice. Look sideways when you can. Look sideways when you got a spare minute and what's going on, what's out there, who's out there. Because to me, again, it's a good thing that keeps the fire alight and keeps a bit of fire in the belly for keeping interested, I guess, in business.
Yeah, I like that. Hopefully our listeners and viewers are through your story, been inspired to kind of take off those blinkers in their business and look sideways. But I love that cautionary angle there as well, as, do it with caution, right? And when your capacity and when your team and when it's the right time to push sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So Dave, personally, your vision as well, like, where are you going as an entrepreneur and as a business owner? Like, do you know what your plans are, or are you just keeping on going?
No, yeah, look, I think, for me, I sit in a CTO role now, and for me, I add value in that technical. I love the thinking around production, but there's no doubt my skill set, which probably comes back to that capacity and conversation, and maybe this is one of my lucky things. It's I can align a product, but at the same time, I'm dreaming up a product, whether it's a boring market or a fun market. I tend to think about fun markets, whether it's marine, aerospace, adventuring equipment. I just tend to think about those. So when I think about them, and if they're in something we're going to do, I guess my bit of superpower is that I'm designing the product in the methodology and capacity that I would best see fit. So it is, for me, I am somewhat lucky. I don't get involved in some of the boring bits throughout, but I envision from a product all the way through manufacturing and how it goes out the back door, and then how someone would use that product. So, for me, I need to make sure that I'm continually doing that. I can also be a person that'll get stuck right down in the nitty gritty of production and be solving a problem in the corner of a shed. But if I was to try and focus on going, where do I bring value and how can we scale businesses, that would be my bit. I need to stay in that lane. Not necessarily stay in that lane. Again, my superpower is I go and get stuck on the floor. I see challenges. I was at work at 4:00 this morning helping a paint team that are having big challenges in one of the areas in our factory. If people upstairs either designing businesses, designing product, do not understand the challenges that happen in key pockets of the business, it's how friction in business happens. And when you can remove as much friction or design a product with as much friction as least amount of friction as possible, things can happen quickly, easily, and the end user isn't the one that pays the price, either by something costing more than it should or by letting them down because the quality wasn't there. So again, I hope I never lose touch with just, being the person that's out there and trying to understand how robots work. We make things, looking at structures, designing better, designing with less amount of bills and materials, all the key things, but just keeping in touch with really that top to bottom. And that's, I'm not like I said just before, I'm not 100% detail guy. I'll fill the blanks pretty quick and leave it to others to fill finer detail. and again, that's still probably my dream and how I do that. You know, the team I surround around me for, you know, getting through those big chunky, how is this a market? How could we go there? Can we look there? But I guess to add to that, you know, the exciting things that are the conversations that are going on around me is how do we design those funnels where we can put businesses in the top and let AI and different processes and methodology drop out an answer at the bottom and go, nah, you guys are kidding yourself. Move on to your next one, or that's a winner. We think that's good. Let's take this to the next step. And you know, there's some pretty exciting conversations going around our tables at the moment on you know how we could make those types of things happen.
Yeah, that's very cool. Just to wrap up here, I'm interested in what you can share with us about the things happening at Zone Manufacturing, like any exciting new things coming around the corner that maybe you can share. I know you're doing stuff in marine. You mentioned aerospace as well.
Look, Cure Marine. It's got the first of these full carbon fiber 55-foot cats. We got multiples on order at the moment, going to all different parts of the world. The first one's about to roll out just before Christmas, so that's super exciting. Those guys have got a brand new big facility getting built in the next 12 months to really scale up production and look at a couple of other sideways industries in the marine market. One Composites has got a brand new big facility coming out of the ground. They need to absolutely scale up composite production, and more of an agile batch production type facility, anywhere where we could be doing projects for defence, and we have been doing stuff for defence. Through to commercial, a lot of drone products, big drones, not little things flying cameras around, big stuff flying long distances, anywhere in the ag industry to delivery service to state delivery service drones. So we got multiples of those projects on.
Those,
yep,
composite parts of those.
Composite parts and full projects end to end on those. To guys. Putting electrical systems in these big drones that, could take off here at Caloundra and be in Sydney.
Wow. You're doing that all in Coolum, amazing.
Yep. So there's those aerospace projects. We've got just other aerospace projects in general, component manufacturing. My favourite hobby is planes and building planes and flying planes. So, I've got two multiple full aircraft projects on the go at the moment, a 2-seater that's just about finished and a 6-seater.
So boats, planes, any trains?
Planes. We got trains. We're building the biggest, we're building the main big mock-up for the Queensland Rail project at the moment. So we've just done all of the front end, all of the interior. It's about a 65-metre mock-up train that's getting built at the moment. Yeah, geez, there's plenty of exciting projects and Zone RVs. It's cranking along. It's just launched a new summit, so a new $280,000 full carbon fiber caravan. It's a rehash or a next generation of something we've been successful at doing. So it's just hit the market literally last week. So it's exciting. Another full new range of vans coming for Zone, just continuing to work on our strengths of making lighter and stronger there. But yeah, that's
so much going on.
There's heaps going on.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, I think most people on the Sunshine Coast wouldn't be aware of the scale and the type of manufacturing that's happening, in the estate behind Coolum there. It's very cool.
And look, it's an exciting place there because there's a bunch of other businesses that are, doing some exciting things there too, and are scaling. And it's a good vibe over there behind Coolum.
Awesome.
Take a drive through there and have a look if you haven't. There's heaps going on.
And watch this space. Dave, thanks for joining me on the Coast to Commerce podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And for you guys watching, if you've enjoyed today's show, make sure to hit subscribe on YouTube or follow on the podcast player, because this is just getting started with season 4 of the Coast and Commerce podcast. We've got lots of great new guests coming in this season. So make sure to follow along and share this with someone else in business who you think would get value from this episode. See you in the next one.